Hi, ma'am. We'll start the session in next 3 minutes. I hope you are ready with the PPT. Hi, ma'am. Am I audible? Surbi, ma'am?
Yeah, you're audible. Am I
Okay.
audible?
Yes, perfect. Are you ready with the PPT? We'll start the session in next 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I will
Okay.
just see if my screen is, just give me a second. Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Hello and good evening to all of you. I am Tanisha Tyagi from S-Chan Publishing, and I am delighted to welcome you back for the final session of the day. Let's continue this journey of learning, discovery, and triumph together. For those who have joined us just now, a quick reminder. We have two quizzes lined up, one today and one tomorrow. The winning participants from these quizzes will receive Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 20,000. Now let's dive into teaching science with our amazing speaker for this session. It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Surbhi Arora, an award-winning eduartist with over 15 years of experience in education. Ms. Arora holds a master's degree in education, chemistry, and English. She is a certified career counselor, instructional designer, and Google Microsoft Eduator. Additionally, she has trained over 10,000 teachers and hosted over 4,000 hours of training. Ms. Arora is an alumna of IMC and IITP and holds certifications in cybersecurity and blockchain technology. We are thrilled to have her here to share her expertise. Before I hand over the virtual stage to her, let me introduce some information about the quiz. After this session, we will have a quiz and two winners will be selected based on their answers. Make sure you stay with us until the end for a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 10,000. We will paste the quiz link in the chat box after 5:30, so please stay with us until the end. Now, without further ado, let's go through some housekeeping rules first. Participants will be muted throughout the entire session. Please ensure you have a pen and paper to note important information. The chat box will only be enabled during the Q&A round and as required by the speaker. To receive your e-certificate, please fill out the feedback form that will be sent to your registered email ID after the session. We'll paste the quiz link in the chat box after 5:30, so please stay with us until the end. Now, without further ado, Miss Surbi Arora, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tanisha. Thank you very much. So just give me a second. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the workshop. I can see a lot of good evening and good afternoon coming up. I'm so sorry. I have to just give me a second, guys. I have to again reshare my screen. Just a minute. Okay. So let me just quickly take over. Yeah. So I hope you can. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I am Surbi Arora. I'm your host for today. And today we will be having this workshop on creating assessment tools to evaluate content understanding in science. So I'm welcoming you all with a big round of applause and the drums and the beats, which are there for all of you. Now, going further, once again, welcome to the workshop, and I hope we have an interesting and interacting session. I would be asking you a lot of questions in between so that we can participate. Hi Devashish, hi Rampriya, hi Supriya. Welcome to the session. And we will go ahead with the first question. I need a confirmation. Can you see my screen? There's something written on the screen. Maybe you read it and share your responses with me. Yeah. So Payal, you know what you have to answer once you have written. Yes, Neeta. I think I should have special, some kind of candies for people who are answering the question correctly. Gayatri is the next one. Yes, your name. Oh, smartly said, name as the apostrophe says. Okay, Yasmita. So yes, welcome everyone. I can clearly see that you can see my screen properly. Thank you very much for being responsive here and participating. Next, I would like you to, if you can hear my voice loud and clear, if yes, then I would like you to give me the formula of sulfuric acid in chat section. Quickly, if you can hear me loud and clear, I want you to give me the formula of sulfuric acid in chat section. Yes, so let me see who was the fastest one to answer. So yes, so we have Farhad. No, a lot of names have come in. Okay, most of us are giving me the correct answer. Some have done a typo error. That's perfectly okay. But you can hear me loud and clear. So that's now I'm confident and I can go ahead with the session. Now, before I go into the actual topic where we will be discussing about how we can create some interesting and good assessment for our students, let's revise some basics so that we are very much clear that all of us are on the same page when it comes to assessments. I will give you a slight glimpse of the basic, and then most of the session is dedicated towards the majority of part where we will try and explore some new ways to assess students in multiple dimensions. Now, the first section is talking about the formative and summative assessments in classrooms. Now, this becomes a prime thing for us to remember because continuously we are speaking about, we are talking about it, and we need to make sure that we all are on the same page with definitions. And it's been long that we have finished our master's in education or BEd, so we need to just revise on the concept slightly. Now, when we talk about summative assessments, or I should have gone the back, on the previous slide. Do you want to answer the question first of what, according to you, is a summative assessment? Anyone wants to answer it? I should have kept it like a quiz instead. Okay, Preeti, whatever you want to answer, just type in the chat section. I will not be unmuting you, unfortunately, right now. So if you could just type it in the chat section, it works for me. Thank you. At the end of the chapter, great work. Sulabha is answering it. Somebody is saying unit test. Subha is saying formative. I'm asking about summative assessment first. The final assessment, the test papers. Final assessment is kind of a resonating word. Yes, after the chapter. So half yearly assessment with pen paper exam. Okay. Half yearly assessment. So we have our definitions of summative assessment. Chapter end one test conducted. Okay, great. Is usually a paper pen term-wise test. So summative assessment is more like a strong evidence that you have done something and you've finished something and we have assessed you. Thank you very much. Good evening, Archana. Now let's see if we have to go to the to the technical part of it. Now, when we talk about summative assessments, they are periodically done to determine that what at a particular time is what our students have understood. So we define a time frame, and according to that time frame, how much they have understood. And they're usually standardized tests that are there. It can be your state assessments, it can be your board assessments, it can be your internal school assessments also, or classroom assessments also. So multiple way we can define it. Yes, Mehboob, how do they understand the subject is a well-defined statement according to it. So we talk about kind of state assessments or board assessments or school assessments, interim assessments, like somebody was talking about half-yearly examination, end of unit or chapter test or end of chapter. So there was also something that one of you shared, that end of chapter test is my summative assessment. Then we had talking about end of term or semester examination. So we have a complete year passing by and then we are taking a test. Mostly they are scores that are accountability for schools. They are usually coming in your report cards. They are coming in your, in your self-evaluation report. They are more like a report that we are creating when we talk specifically about summative assessment. Yes, Sarika, we can also consider weekly tests also if that is a criteria that you're keeping, a kind of a summative assessment criteria, specifically in that way. So very well shared, everyone. Now, let's talk about the next section, which is formative assessment. I could gauge out that most of you are aware about summative, but then let's talk about formative. What is your understanding of a formative assessment? I'm looking for answers. How do you define a formative assessment? Anything? One of the workshops, somebody said, ma'am, whatever we are, forcefully asked to do as activities in the classroom. Okay, the chapter-wise test again. Okay. Then we have a word coming as students' knowledge as they learn, continuous evaluation. We are getting from one of the quizzing, and then small test after completing topic, monthly test, unit test, practice-based test. So we are getting practical or weekly or half-yearly. Now, mostly if you have to okay, so let me just read the answers first. Project based, finish the chapter, oral test, periodic test. So we are talking about some kind of evaluation methodology again that we are developing for our students. Okay, so we have a lot of mixed responses in this one, which is a formative assessment. So let's talk about it more in detail. Now I can read somebody's answer, which is comprising of assignments, projects, activity orders, and observations, skill sheets, a lot of answers coming in. Let's see, how do I read it for you? If I have to talk about formative assessment, I would call the word continuous in the picture for sure. For me, the word continuous is kind of a winning statement in terms of formative assessment. Now, formative assessment, if I have to slightly redefine, it has to be part of the instructional process. That while you're taking your journey of teaching or during your process of teaching, can we include a methodology in which we are able to check how much our students have understood the topic during the instructional journey only it has to be more like a formative assessment. And we talk about why do we do that? It provides information needed to adjust the teaching and learning while they are happening. So during the process of a teacher and learner interaction happening and the learning process happening, if we are conducting some kind of assessments, they become more of a part of the formative assessments. Now, we could include a lot of things, for instance, your day-to-day activities, such as you having discussion and conversation with your students, or me going into the classroom and saying, okay, can you tell me what have you understood, or can all of you share what have you understood about a particular topic? For me, that is formative assessment. Or a simple mental note taken by the teacher, okay, these are my some students who have understood the topic, or these are my students who have not understood the topic, is more like a formative assessment. And then a student's self and peer evaluation, they are basically understanding what they have understood, or they're understanding what their peer has understood, is kind of a formative evaluation. Then talking about a detailed analysis of students' work or various assessment tools that we can use while we are discussing on the instructional process or the learning process. A class test can be part of a formative assessment. Now, formative assessment has an interesting part. They may or may not be formal in nature, and it can be informal behavior in which we are trying to gaze out what our students have understood. So the majority of the section where I've kept is more about the continuous assessment, that why do I have to wait till the end of the semester to realize that what my child have understood? Can I have a methodology to figure out what my kids have understood during the journey of my teaching, so that I can kind of retune my teaching process, or I can kind of go back and fix their learning gaps and then start with the journey? So that's the core purpose. And if I have to keep it under the section of the purpose and characteristics of classroom assessment, then I have few pointers for all of you. That if I have to give you like some magic 5 bullet points, which I don't know if should call magic or not, then I would give these as the bullet points for all of you. I would say, why do I need a process during my journey? One, so that I can have, we can provide feedback. Then your good assessment is talking about direct learning goals. You are making your children understand that, okay, are we going towards a learning goal or not? We want to gather relevant information, that how much my kids are understanding. I want to understand that what are the strength areas and what are the weakness areas. When I call about the strength and the weakness, for me, weakness is more about the learning gaps my kids would have, gathered during their journey in the past years, or during the journey in the classroom itself when I'm teaching. And finally, the motivation. The prime factor for any kind of classroom assessment has to be motivation, and not putting your children onto that, onto that place that, okay, I'm judging you. Not to that place, but talking more about that, hey, I can do it, and I've done better, and I can do much better. I am strong in these areas, but I need help in these areas. So that is what we are trying to kind of evaluate when we are talking about the characteristics of a classroom assessment. Now, before I go into and dig deep into the section of various kind of assessments that we can find and create, I would love all of you to kind of, answer this riddle, which is going to come on your screen, and kind of let me see that how many of you are paying attention. And no extra certificates for paying attention, but then I want to make sure that you are listening and I am participative in my own way. So here is the riddle for all of you. What kind of chemical element hates to be a follower? Let me see. What kind of chemical element hates to be a follower? And guys, don't Google it. Anyone who can answer this question? No clue? Oh, so I'm waiting for others. Iodine. I'm getting a lot of answers. I think I gave you a hint to actually Google it, and then it gets me the answer quickly. So yes, the correct answer is lit. And just be honest and tell me who all of you actually Googled it. Okay, so somebody's saying influence and noble gas, and noble gas is, let's say, a good answer, Shisham. And then Jenny saying not me. Okay, so I hope that you have not cheated on me and not done it, and then be honest to yourself. वो जो हम बच्चों को कहते हैं, like just keep your hand on your heart and then be honest. So be honest with me. Okay, lead is the correct answer. It's a kind of a poor show because it loves to lead. That's why lead is the one which does not want to be a follower. Okay, so let's go to the next part, and which is more about the theories of learning. Now, I have specifically added, some 2 to 3 slides on theories of learning. I want you to understand theories of learning because it will develop the foundation of what we are going to talk next. And it is going to be a good learning experience. I hope that gives you some understanding of where I'm taking this discussion today. Now, when I talk about theories of learning, there are 2 theories of learning that I'm going to share with all of you today. The first theory of learning is something I think when I became the teacher for the first time, I religiously followed it, and it took me a lot of years to kind of get out of it. So the first theory of learning we call as transmission theory. It's an interesting one. Now, let me just see. So imagine this is the teacher's head, the first one on the screen here. This is the teacher's head. This is the teacher's head here. And this is the teacher's head. And this is the learner's head before learning. So the teacher is coming into the classroom and the teacher is thinking that, okay, I'm going to go into the classroom and I will make sure that my child is understanding all these, 7, 8, 9 points. And I'm going to put everything into my child's brain. And after learning, all of a suddenly, my child's brain will look something like this. So whatever was there into the teacher's brain got transmitted into the learner's brain. So the learner is, the teacher is assuming that they will make sure that learner after the journey has this beautiful brain formation where everything is visible to them. So that's what is the after learning part that the teacher is assuming. However, the interesting part is that in actual sense, if you look at it, and you have to answer me in a yes or no if I'm correct here or not, this is the teacher's head, which is there. Now, a teacher's head is full of information. The teacher is getting in a lot of information that the teacher wants to communicate. Uh, Only 40% what we expected in students' brain, okay? This is what is a teacher's head. And as soon as the teacher starts teaching, before the teacher starts teaching, the learner is sitting there in the classroom. And I'm just going to show you the image. I'm not going to define it more, but this is a learner's brain. And this is a learner's brain even before the teacher start teaching a particular topic in the classroom. Now, as soon as the teacher started teaching and after the teacher has finished the topic, this is something which a learner's head looks like. Do you all slightly agree with me if I am correct or not over here? From your teaching experience, I would just want to validate my thought and the theory. Yeah, thank God. I'm getting a lot of answers. No, if there's a no, then you have to talk to me offline. For sure, we'll not have the discussion point. Like I'm not allowed to go into a lot of discussions here. Okay. So yes, it's correct. So what happens during the journey? What happens? So there's a teacher's head and there's a learner's head. And after learning, now how do I elaborate on this one particular topic? For instance, let me take an example that I'm going to use in slides further. Food chain. Now you're teaching a concept of food chain, but you're thinking that I'm going to teach it completely. But your learner has already heard about herbivorous, carnivorous, or something about food chain they have already done. So when you're entering into the classroom, they're getting some previous knowledge, or they would have seen some images, videos, Google, YouTube, a lot of things. Or their parents would have informed them. Kids these days are extremely smart. So that's the reason they already have some information, and we have spiral curriculums. So all the topics are coming from one grade to another in the further hierarchical level. And then there could be one topic which is not that well developed. The pink one, which I'm showing here, is the one which is slightly underdeveloped. Now, as soon as the teacher started teaching, this one became better developed. All the thoughts of the topic were kind of rearranged in a way, in a different way. And then maybe some new doubts, the white one is representing new doubts, got developed during that learning process. And then the heart kind of represents that the student has constructed the thought as per their own understanding. The thought has been constructed in their mind as per their own understanding. Now, this becomes important because all students will develop the thought in a different way. And if we claim that everyone has understood equally well or in the same manner, no, thought has been constructed in a different way. I have so many of you with me in this webinar. I'm pretty sure whatever I'm talking about, some of you are listening, some of you are not listening, whatever is happening, but all of you are developing that thought in a different way. It cannot be same for any two individuals for the same topic. Now, when we talk about it, this beautiful theory, which NEP is also by default is kind of emphasizing on again and again, which is constructivist theory, this comes into picture. That the whole process will be constructed in the child's mind. Now, if we have to understand the constructivist theory, there's a simple statement which is given, in the footer, which says the most important single factor influencing learning is what the learner already knows. We should, as a teacher, and I would like you to take a picture of this or make a note of it or just keep it written somewhere. This is one statement which I follow every time I have to think about creating a lesson plan. That how do I judge it or how do I plan it? So this is an important way or an interesting way to judge it. Now, while I'm talking about constructive view, we will start our journey from here, and now we will be passing on towards assessment. So the first thing is me understanding that how do kids understand things? They don't understand through transmission, they understand through constructivism. Now, while I'm teaching in that journey, how do I make sure that are they getting my words or are they understanding what I'm saying is something we want to assess. So the first thing we would love to assess is eliciting existing ideas. Welcome to everyone who has just joined, and we have already started, but I hope you catch up and we can take up some questions in the last part of the session. Now, when we go towards that thing, there is a one methodology which is extremely good to identify our kids' level during the journey, and I call it as a diagnostic approach. So I brought a sample for you in order to understand that how the diagnostic approach works. So let's take an activity and let's run an example and let's do an activity by the name of food chains. Now, when we are going to discuss about this activity, so this also kind of activity is combining competency based and constructivism learning, and this is an assessment tool that I'm going to share with you. So we are going to take an example of food chain, and this is the image on your screen. I want you to look at this image carefully because I'm going to ask you questions on the next two slides based on this image. So first, on the left side, we are starting from cabbages, caterpillars, chaffinches, and owls. I want you to look at this particular diagram and make a mental note. I may not come back to this one. And be careful because that based on this image, you will be answering the next questions. And just based on this image. So be sure that you're carefully looking at it. And I want to give you 10 seconds more to look at this image. It's not a difficult image to digest, but yes. Okay, let's go ahead. And here's your first question. I just want you to give it a try. Doesn't matter correct and incorrect, but just to understand a student thought process. So here's the question on the screen. Read the statement about cabbages. How do you feel about each statement? So statements are given in the columns and then in the rows, and then we have options given in the columns. So the statement says cabbages are at the start of the food chain. You have options like, I'm sure this is right. I think this is right. I think this is wrong. I'm sure this is wrong. The next statement says, so you can, mark only one section as correct out of all four. Then the next statement says, cabbages are producers. And the options are, the options are, I'm sure this is right. I think this is right. I think this is wrong. And I'm sure this is wrong. You can just write one and then fourth option or second, and then you can write in that way to make it easier for you. Now, then we have the next question, and this is correct. Okay, so I'm getting answers. Good. Then we have cabbages are consumers, and then again 4 options, and cabbages are herbivores. Okay, let me see how many of you are attempting. 1, 1, 4, 4. Okay. Okay, so I have a lot of people answering the questions now. Good. Yeah. God have kind of done it in a very smart way, in a tabular format. Okay, nice. Nicely done. Okay, so I'm getting most of the answers and people are almost at the correct. See, my purpose right now is not to judge that how much we are understanding, but we want to understand the creation of this question. So I will just quickly give the answer. So cabbages are at the start of the food chain. Yes, I'm sure this is right. Cabbages are producers. I'm sure this is right. Cabbages are consumers. I'm sure this is wrong. Cabbages are herbivores. I'm sure this is wrong. So I'm just quickly answering all your questions over here. And going to the next question, I will just give you a taste of 2 questions and then we will dig deep into what we are doing over here. Now, let's go to the next question on the similar format and the similar part of the same question. Read the statement about chaffinches. How do you feel about each statement? Chaffinches are producers. And again, the 4 options. I'm sure this is right. I think this is right. I think this is wrong. And I'm sure this is wrong. Similarly, you have chaffinches are consumers. Chaffinches are predator. Chaffinches are prey. Let me see. I will have a sip of water. You can write in the tabular format, like I think it was nice, or the way you were giving the answers earlier. Okay, Kushbu has given her answer. Then we have someone 91703. I don't know your name. Swati, Rasi, Reji, Debashish. If I'm pronouncing your names incorrectly, please apology. At a quick glance, it becomes difficult. Jayanti has given answers. Gaurav has given answers. We have Gaurav sir specifically. Payal, Priya. And I'm quickly just taking first names, being the teacher in the room right now. Okay, so we have got the answers. I will quickly, take you through the answers. I'm left with, I'm limited on time. So the answers over here are chaffinches are producers. I'm sure this is wrong. Chaffinch is the consumer, right? Chiffins are predators, yes. Prey, yes. Now, if you understand what I've done over here or what we are doing in this particular set of questions, what we are doing is the same question, chaffinches are producers, could have been a true or false question. It could have been a yes or no question. But over here, it has been specifically converted, and your true right now is broken down into I'm sure this is right and I think this is right. Your false is broken down into I'm sure this is wrong, I think this is wrong. So what we have done over here is we have created opportunities to conduct mistake. We have not created opportunities to mark correct answer. We have done opportunities to identify that are you giving this answer because you're sure about it and you're confident about it, or are you giving this answer because you're randomly picking up a choice? So what we have done with children is what we call creating a confidence grid. This type of particular question type is known as confidence grid. We try and dissect on the confidence of our children to identify their understanding and to identify that how much they have grasped in their knowledge. And when you will try these questions with children, trust me, we have seen instances where children are saying chaffinches are producers because they don't understand at times, and then they will say that cabbages are herbivorous, and you will understand that okay, they are getting some kind of knowledge which is mismatching in one way or the other. So when we are building these creations or the question, it is known as confidence grid. And what I'm doing is I'm diagnosing. What I'm diagnosing, I'm being a doctor over here, my classroom doctor. I'm diagnosing the learning gaps and the understanding level of my children within the classroom with the simple sheet that I'm providing to them, or a simple question format I provide to them. And if I collect that format and I actually save it and I collect that as an information, it becomes more like an evidence-based teaching, that I'm not just diagnosing the problem, but I'm also creating evidences or proofs of their understanding. Now, we will have a lot of situation and a lot of activities or questions that I will be sharing with you where maybe we don't have evidences. Uh, Payal, you cannot hear me, but I hope others can hear me properly. I have one. I think others can hear me, right? Can you just give me a thumbs up? Or yes, thank you, Rajni. Pal, can you just check your system at your own end? Okay, thank you, everyone. Coming back to the evidence-based teaching, so you are able to have evidences of or proofs of understanding in this way. So I will just quickly take you through the definition of evidence-based teaching so that I can show you more question types which we can create in the classroom. Now, when we talk about evidence-based teaching or assessment, we talk about evaluating student achievement of expecting learned outcomes. That what is the expected learning outcome? So every time you're creating a lesson plan, we are creating ILOs or ELOs, or whatever you may be defining it in your system, or LOs, some schools call it. Now, when we are having those LOs defined, what I'm trying to know is that how can I create learning outcomes? That's okay. But then can I assess that if the learning outcomes have been achieved or not? So the evidence-based assessment has this golden rule, I should say, that you should be able to determine the expected learning outcomes. So whenever you created that assessment, you have to write that, okay, which is the learning outcome I'm trying to check over there. Then you will arrange your learning process around the outcomes that you're receiving. You will gain evidence, and then you will try and assess yourself and make changes if necessary. That's how a proper evidence-based assessment works. So what I've done is I put a kind of a case study. I should not call it case study. It's more like a situation which I have for you. So for instance, let's look at the situation. Supposedly, the teacher has taught her students the position of various body organs in the body. Our teacher used various videos and posters to elaborate and mention on the positions. The teacher used terms such as inferior, posterior, medial, deep, lateral, a lot of terms to talk about and define positions of various organs in the body. Now, this is already done and I have taught it. Now, my learning outcome should be that my children should understand the positions of various parts in the body. Now, a quick question for all of you is, how will you assess it? I would like you to just give me, maybe I will learn a lot of new things from you. So how will you assess it? How will you assess it? Any guesses? MCQ? Quiz through pictures, okay, by cross-questioning, by showing picture of organ, okay. So the learning outcome I was trying to achieve was that my kids should know that what is the position of various parts of the, or asking them to demonstrate by questioning, choosing the answer, guess the organ through pictures. So we have a lot of, reasoning coming in, label and diagram provided, puzzles, pictures. Okay, yes, we can do it in all ways. See, I don't even have to be taking this webinar. If I just make you all sit in a room, you are full of ideas and then sharing those ideas over here. So, but let us see. What I have as an idea that we can use. I'm going to just share that one. For instance, maybe this question: in which label part of the human art or human body is the heart? And we have a exact understanding that has my child understood, looking at the picture, that where is the major part of the human heart located according to the picture. Now you can, be proactive and answer this question. That's perfectly okay now. Okay, you are all are answering this question. Great. So, but I was not willing to take it as a test. It's just a sample of showing to them and asking them, okay, can you just identify which part of the human body is the heart, and asking them to mark it. Or there could be a similar question, the next one, in which label part of the human body is stomach? If I have to identify where do you locate the stomach and how do you look at it? So that can be another question. And then similarly, oh, I have so much participation happening. Good. So I think I should have kept the quiz that we have after this session here only. Like if people want to answer more like in the group. Nice. Okay. Thank you, Nidhi and Lakshmi, and then Kusum, and then a lot of people, Mehboob, and people who are participating. Then the next one could be this one. In which label part of the human body are the lungs? And this is my favorite one because I've seen this as a misconception. Most of the students marking it as part of the interior part of the body, and then getting that confusion. And this one is usually like they get wow. And if you have to make it much more interesting, you just add the interior part image also, and then ask them to make a guess between both of them in the same question, and you will see some interesting answers and doubts coming in. So this is one way. We'll also go for another situation to see another set of questions and understand the same logic. So this is the another case study where the teacher has taught the concept of gravity and how it leads to falling of objects. The teacher believes students have understood the concept but doubts that they may still have some misconceptions that could have developed during explanation. Now, to clear them, she creates some diagnostic and evidence-based assessments. But before I go to the section and vertical and show you the question, I will tell you an interesting theory, and it has, not just theory; it's a practical, it's a complete philosophy with a lot of proofs that in the process of teaching, the teacher tends to create equivalent number of doubts that while they are creating the concept or clearing the concept. So by default, students have these, kind of images they develop in the brain, that when I say the constructivist theory, that though they're clearing one concept, but they may also create a new misconception for the same concept. Now we will have better understanding by the next question, looking at the next question. So if you look at it, okay, the drawing shows an apple falling from a tree. A very simple one. I think this is one example which led to a lot of development happening throughout the world that we have seen so far. So yeah, this is not the question. This is not the question, Subha. The question is on the next screen, which is like this. Oh, gravity was not the question. I know you people know that. Now, when is gravity acting on the apple? One, on the tree, two, while falling, three, on the ground. And you have options one only, two only, three only, one and two, one and three, two and three, and one, two and three. Think about it. So we have a lot of answers coming in. One, two, and three, three G, one, two, two, three G. One, two, three. A lot of lot options given to me. Now, I would leave this question for you to discuss and maybe figure out and then go back. I just love to leave people with unsolved quizzes so that they can go back and remember me for irritating them by not telling them the answer or just researching the question and then thinking about it. I just love to do that. So I'm going to do that for you right now. So at least when you go back, you figure out, and maybe this answer comes in the quiz. I'm not sure. This question comes there also, but you just figure it out. Now, when we are talking about it, the whole idea is that every time we are teaching about gravity, we are just talking about an object falling down, and then there is a gravitating pull happening on them. But was it happening when that was on a tree, or was it happening when it was falling down, or when it's on the ground? Is it happening? Now, if I be honest, we actually teach all these three concepts in three different questions for sure. These are the questions which are part of the physics curriculum, and we teach it. We're teaching them as part of the curriculum. And there are three different questions where you will find all the three situations for sure. But now, when I combine all the situations for all of you, are you able to assess or figure out if that question is correctly answered or not correctly answered or whatever may be the situation? Now, that becomes an important perspective. So, when we do diagnostic learning, we are also trying to understand that is my child developing some kind of misconception that because we always put, and why this happens? Because when the teacher was explaining the example, they kept the apple stuck on the tree and said that, okay, now the gravity is acting on it. Or, and they understood, okay, it is happening. Or they picked up an image falling down and said, oh, gravity is acting on it. So there are situations, when you go to senior grades, you see an image of a person sitting on a bench and you say, oh, gravity is still acting on him while he's in static position. But when you combine all three concepts together, is our brain able to analyze it or not is an important thing, which we need to try. I've given you indirectly the correct answer, but let's see how much you go back and follow it. So coming back to the constructivist view of learning, we say that we set the scene, we elicit ideas, we apply those ideas, and we review changes in ideas. Now, what I discussed with you was eliciting existing ideas earlier, that the activity which I have done, all the type of questions, that can be beginning of the chapter, that can be also during the process of teaching students. But then we can also have a lot of mechanisms where we can have activities with children where we are actually practicing with them various questions. So let's see and go ahead and try those questions and activities. So the first one is techniques for assessing knowledge and skills. That what are the various techniques that we can use for assessing knowledge and skills for our students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my different screen now. You have to give me a minute. But before that, let me show you this thing. So the first thing that I'm going to use to show that how can we assess is a concept map. This is a sample of a concept map. And because it is a webinar mode, so I'm showing you the online version. But whatever I'm showing you in the online version, there's a physical version of it, which I'm not showing to you by default because we are talking more in the webinar format. So these were the activities which I created when we were talking about that how do we run online classes. So I'm going to show you the online version of it. Give me a second. I have to open up a different screen altogether now. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Now, the first one was concept maps. Yes. So when we talk about the concept map over here, I hope the screen is visible to all of you, or the concept map screen specifically. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at the screen, now this is a Jamboard that I've created. I have just understood that it's going on. Let's ignore this part specifically. Now, when I'm looking at the screen, now this is a concept. Now, what exactly is happening on this particular screen? What I've done is I have created multiple the same Jamboard, multiple copies are there. Now, while I've done that, now what exactly, how am I going to assess my students? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give them different terms for the topic that I've already taught. Now, guessing on this one is like, you can easily understand that this is the topic of an asset-based concept. Now, I give this topic to my children in a different way, and I tell them, okay, fine, I want all of you to participate, and I want all of you to create a Jamboard. So what I do then, I give them different worksheets, and I ask them to actually use it. Now, what they have to do is they have to find correlations in the various worksheets. So what they will be doing is they will be either connecting it one way or the other, or if they don't have to do it, we also ask them, okay, fine, you can just pick up the image, and then keep it somewhere. So you can just place it one over the other. So what you have to do is you have to develop some connection in the Jamboard that is given to you, or in the asset-based concept worksheet which is given to you. Now, what do we try to evaluate from there? What we try to see is that are they able to differentiate acid and base components separately, and the salt components separately, and they are able to develop relation between. So what we usually understand is, in different group of students, when they do this activity, you will see different level of achievement they have achieved. Certain groups will show you, or certain individuals will show you the complete end-to-end formation of acid, and there is base, and then salt, and then they will also talk about neutralization reactions, and they will give you everything, and they will also put universal indicators diagrams over there that, okay, fine, this is the color, this is the change that we are predicting. But then there were certain groups who will just do that connections and give it to you. A very basic activity, but then a very useful activity. Now, this is one activity, but let me take you to some more activities which can be useful for you while you're helping your children, or you're helping them decide on what they've understood. Now, there used to be an interesting concept when I used to ask people that, okay, you have taught that concept, like supposedly, you have taught definitions to your children. Now, one day, all of a suddenly, you go and ask them, okay, can you define? They will define it for you, and they will give you the answer. They will give you two examples or the same examples you quoted. But on one fine day, if I mix, all elements and compounds and molecules or whatever all together in one bucket, and ask them to just separate them into different sections, can my children do that or not? Now, when I ask this question, most of the time I get an answer no, that they're not able to do it. Okay, so if you're with me still, teachers, you have to just give me, a high five or a shout out, so that I know. When you stop talking, I get concerned that nobody's there with me. So just to keep being, yeah, thank you. Okay, now, so let me show you one activity which you can do. Now, this is an example of a card sorting activity. Now, if you see this particular card, now imagine me taking printouts of these cards and then laminating them and then cutting pieces. And even for lamination, what I do is I do double-sided, I do those transparent thick tapes, and I use them, and then I cut these pieces and keep them into pouch, those tuck-in pouches over there. And because I travel a lot, and these are my, training kits. So this is what I do. Okay, and we have Subhamati, if you want to say something, or it was just a high five for me, thank you then. Okay, now, supposedly, now this is one activity I give them that, okay, fine, I've explained you the concept of electric bell. Now I want you to rearrange all the steps of how an electric bell works one after the other. So they will just pick it up and they will keep it here, or they will keep this one here, whatever are the steps, they will just read it and they can do it. Now, these are usually group activities. And what happens, you do this activity once, you will see that maybe they're facing a challenge. You do it the same activity again. You will understand that they have understood the concept already and they know the sequencing, but they have learned it through a gamified method. But also, you as a teacher have understood that how much they know and how much they don't know about it. The same activity can be in a different format. For instance, this one, I have the term which is of a cell, or I have this particular scientific term, or what do we call as definitions term, and then I ask them that, okay, match it with the correct answers. If there's a cell wall, it's made of cellulose. If there's a mitochondria, I would just say made of the genetic material maybe, and then I would say do the same thing for cytoplasm or other things at various places. I'm not doing this activity right now with you. in a complete sense, but I'm just giving you a logical idea. That now imagine the same, you have to put that imagination into place. I'm doing it on online mode. You again take printouts, you create those cards, and you give it to them, and you ask them to rearrange it. Even when you are young teachers and supposedly you are doing topic like herbivorous, carnivorous, and omnivorous, or opaque, transparent, translucent, imagine giving them terms or samples or objects or animals, and then asking them to put it separately or separate out all of them into different buckets. That is a way for you to understand how much they have understood in the continuous learning process. Then there is a third activity in a similar format. Many times I get this query. The interesting part to understand is science is a field where, in order to graduate and become a master of the subject, you have to do extreme level of reading, extreme level of reading. But the first time when we learn to make notes is in college, unfortunately. And that too, because the professors are writing, or speaking quite fast, we have to get ourselves equipped with things. But nobody teaches us that how should we actually, how should we actually read a text. Now, this particular activity by the name of DARTS, which is directed activity related to text. This activity focuses on the portion of how do you read a text. So for instance, I will give you an example. Now, this particular example is a flow of oxygen, which is happening in the lungs. It says, read the whole passage and put a circle around each part of the breathing system. So I'm highlighting the word part, and then I'm saying put a circle around it. Then I'm talking about read the passage again and underline each, function of the breathing system. So I've separated part and function and asking one to circle it and one to be underlined. Now, this one particularly is more like a teaching mechanism. However, now how do I assess it? It's also an assessment. If you convert it into assessment, then you're talking about that are your children able to identify the part from the function? Now, at a teacher's level, it may sound silly, but then trust me, when you start with grade 5, grade 6 level kids, they are underlining everything. This is important, this is important. But then you say, okay, stop. Just mark the part for me and not the function, because they're learning these terms for the first time. And if you're not, so if you're using the word aspiration and or respiration or exhalation, now for them it can be a body part also. So you have to create that difference between body part and function through these activities. Another beautiful activity which I have tried and tested with my children has been the DART activity, which has, tasted wonders for me. And finally, this one activity, which is by the name of Tarsia, which says that while you're doing this activity, what do we do is, how many of you know have played Tarsia? Like anyone done Tarsia in your classrooms with your children? Or have you tried or played them yourself or created them? Either a no or a yes? Not heard. Okay. Yeah, Tanu has done it. Good. Okay. So there's a mixed response. Now, Tarsia, if you know about Bloom's taxonomy, is one of the highest level in the Bloom's taxonomy. And the interesting part is when we talk about Tarsia, I have seen teachers also, and me, at times I also am kind of not failing in Tarsia. It's like that challenging. You can answer a Tarsia only if you're heavy on the concept, like you know it end to end, only then. And what we have done as a surprising factor, we did this testing. We gave the Tarsia to a group of teachers, asked them to solve it, and noted the time. And then we give the same Tarsias to students and ask them to solve it. Students were able to do it faster than teachers specifically, because they are more spending more time in kind of learning the concept or imbibing the concept. But then how do I like it? So in actual shape, what do we do is we give children cards like these. If you see these cards on my screen, so it was a big sheet, so I gave them cards like these. Now, when we give them cards like this, and then we ask them, okay, now you have to sort it and you have to place it and do everything. So what they have to do is each card has a parallel. If you see here carefully, each card, if there's no charge, so it will have some term like neutron maybe coming in front of it. So each statement has a parallel statement or the paired statement to which it has to be matched. And unless you are not matching it, after matching, all these cards will form a bigger image or a shape that will be the complete Tarsia. And none of these statement can have like no paired statement. It was always a paired statement. So in actual, this Tarsia looks something like this. But whenever this particular one, which I'm showing them a screen, I have seen an average time with teachers going from 20 to 25 minutes also. But with students, it's like 15 to 20 minutes, when we have seen in senior grades. So these are the various ways in which teacher can quickly make some assessments and understand what the teacher or what the child has understood in detail on the topic. Now, if I go further on this one and talk about it, give me a second. The screen is getting shared now. Just a second. Okay. I have to share my screen once again, teachers. Yeah. So now when we go further, this one. Okay. So now I am left with only 3 minutes with you. So I will just quickly I've taken you through these activities. This was not that important. So how do I assess my learners finally? So there's one interesting thing that you can do while you're running your classroom. I'm not carrying that sheet. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I can just use a sample. For instance, I call this one out. Just ignore this one. Okay. So what you can do is you actually create a show me board. I love the sound. So what we do is we actually create a show me board. In show me board, what we do is I don't laugh on this particular sheet. It's my daughter. I don't know if I can show it to you. Yeah. So basically, you take an A4 sheet and you get it laminated. So every time you finish a concept or you finish a topic, so you ask your children, okay, can you show me, and can you draw this and show it to me, or can you answer this? And you ask them to write it on it. It's an erasable sheet, and then they show it to you. Okay, and at a count of three, I want all of you to show what you have understood. Now they will show it to you. At a glance of just few seconds, as a teacher, you can evaluate the whole class. So that's what we usually do when we are running these activities. So this is a very powerful tool to actually assess immediately, impromptu, what your kids are doing. Similarly, and finally, when we talk about planning and implementing the whole process and the whole journey, if I have to end it for you, it will be very simple and it can be done in this way that you have a task which is to be done. Now, the same task can be used in summative way, and it is more like a performance-based indicator which you're understanding and age-related measure that what the child has understood. But if you're using the same task in a formative way, now it's more about what feedback is given to students about a specific aspect during a formative way. But in the summative way, you will be talking about a performance that you are able to judge through it. So formative way for the same task will be feedback giving, but summative way will be more about assessing the performance of the child. So summative assessments are more performance driven assessments that we're having for our children. And this specific feedback that you're giving, the one which is over here that we are giving to our children, this specific feedback allows them to make progress in their learning journey. So that's how a teacher can actually understand and kind of apply those concepts in the daily teacher learning journey and make this comfortable for the students. So that's all, my teachers. I hope I have done some justice to your understanding on the concept of assessments, and I can take up any of your questions now.
Participants, if you have any questions, please write it down in the chat box. Quiz will begin at 5:30. We'll share the quiz link in the chat box. So stay tuned. If you have any questions related to the session, please write it in the chat box.
Question paper for foundation state on which area should be focused for formative assessment. Okay, when we're talking about the foundational stage, I think we have to talk about the understanding of the concept and the misconception. For instance, if you are teaching a topic such as evaporation, and you tell them and you make a diagram over there and you show them a lake and a sea and tell them evaporations happen from there, like all of us have learned that sun and then evaporation happening. Every time you ask this question, they will answer it. Evaporation happens from lakes and seas and rivers. However, the true concept is evaporation is happening throughout the day because of the temperature, because of various things. So while we are talking to the foundational stages, we can have a similar concepts of understanding, and breaking down that concept in multiple ways is something which I would suggest that we can try. Yeah. Anything else? When you don't ask questions, either you have not, learned anything or you've understood everything. So I hope it's the latter part and not the former one, teachers. Tanisha will just kill me after this.
No, 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 definitely not. I
Okay.
think they loved your session because I can see, a lot of messages regarding your session. Nice seminar, very nice session. So I think they enjoyed the session.
Okay, this is a good
Yeah,
question.
one
How
question, yeah.
evidence-based teaching will be helpful for students? Yes, actually, Indo, I'm not I usually don't touch territories where I'm not an expert, but yes, I'm aware about a lot of scientific research of evidence-based teaching being used in special need kids. I work on evidence-based. So there's a lot of literature and a lot of research and ready-made questions available for students with special needs. If you are planning to, or you have are catering such requirements, I would rather say that please go ahead and do it. I have seen that it work wonders even in the regular classroom. So that will just help you out. So also, I think Tarsia is a lovely activity and challenge. I do one few things. I make children participate in housewise, like you have 4 houses and then make them compete, and they enjoy it.
So, thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your wonderful session.
Thank you.
I
Thanks a
hope
lot.
everyone enjoyed the session.
I hope so.
Yeah, just a minute, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Lakshmi
Thanks
has
a
a
lot.
Sorry, Tanisha, can I
Yeah,
answer
okay,
this
okay.
question? Yeah, so there's a
Yes,
question by
yes.
Lakshmi. Can we have, yes, Lakshmi, we see, when Tanisha introduced me, she called me an edu artist. Like, I am all in for heuristic method and hands-on method and all the activity-based method. And if I talk about young children, like my own son is 10 years of age, and what I have done is that I usually give them the space and the material. So when you talk about young kids, the best way to apply learning is that you just give them the material and you will see that they will do wonders and they will create things by themselves and they will create magic. So yes, this is very much applicable, though there's only one caveat that it is difficult to assess. It's an open-ended part. It is not close-ended. So if you're just putting it as part of assessment, which is more record-driven, that will become difficult for you. But you can have some rubrics for them to judge them.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Ms. Surbi Arora, for your engaging presentation today. Your expertise and passion have provided us with valuable insights into the session. Heartfelt thank you to all the participants for your active engagement and insightful contributions. We look forward to seeing you all at our next CPD session. Remember, tomorrow's session starts at 3:15 p.m., offering more opportunities to deepen our knowledge and a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 10,000. Once again, thank you so much, ma'am, and all the participants. So now, participants, we'll post the quiz link in the chat box. Please copy the link and complete the quiz. Participants, we have pasted the quiz link in the chat box. Please copy the link. The quiz link will be active till tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. If you want to brush up your knowledge, you can visit our YouTube channel. These sessions were live on YouTube. You can find the recordings there and you can revise your concepts and then you can attend the quiz. We'll keep this meeting live for next 5 minutes, so please copy the quiz link and stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth rupees 10,000. The feedback form will be sent to your registered email IDs after this session. Fill the feedback and you'll get the certificate. Participants, once again, I request you all to please copy the quiz link. It will be active till tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. And if you want to revise your concepts, please visit our YouTube channel, S Chand Academy. We have pasted S Chand Academy's link also. You can revise your concepts. All these sessions were live on YouTube. You can find the recordings there, and then you can attend the quiz. Um, okay. The feedback link will be sent to your registered email IDs. Fill the feedback form and then you will get the certificate. I hope all of you have copied the quiz link. If not,